Hey everybody, this is Captain Fool reporting for duty, giving you my weekly comic book review. So sit back and enjoy.
News about comic books, musical instruments, tech reviews, and video games with your host, Captain Fugu.
Welcome back, comic book fans, and welcome back to the channel. Every week, a flood of comics hits the shelves, and it can be tough to decide what to pick up. But don't worry, that's what I'm here for. We're about to dive in to this week's releases to crown one book the comic of the week. Will it be an epic superhero showdown, a mind-bending indie darling, or maybe a hilarious new series that everyone has been talking about? I've read a stack of them, and I've got some strong opinions. So stick around to the very end to see which comic earned the top spot and why you absolutely need to add it to your collection. Feel free to drop your own picks in the comments below. I'd love to see what you're reading. So, let's get into it. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more comic book reviews every week. Welcome back to the weekly comic book review, where I give my reviews and compare them to the massive group of people on League of Comics Geeks, which I usually give a lower score than. Sometimes, occasionally a higher one, which has been quite surprising lately. Before I dive in, I just want to mention that we did lose Chuck Norris today. He will be in heaven, may be embraced, and please, maybe a prayer for his family of losing such a gentleman there. So, all of us people that grew up loving Chuck Norris and things, may he be resting in heaven. The first book I want to talk about is Batman Superman World's Finest, issue 49. It has 354 ratings with a 3.7 score on League of Comics Geeks, and I give it very close, 3.8, which, what do you know, I start off higher than they do. Writers Mark Waid and Mark Russell, artist is Marcos 2, which says a lot because I am not a fan of Mark Waid. There is, the standard cover I think is pretty good. It gets you interested. There is some alternate covers too. One doesn't make any sense because it has Supergirl and Robin, which they have nothing to do with this issue, but it is what it is. There's some other ones that are pretty decent too. This is part 2 of the series where they're on Earth 3. They've been transported by Brainiac, and pretty much all the heroes have swapped. The heroes there on Earth 3 are villains, and the villains are heroes. So our heroes they're captured, but they're rescued by none other than the Riddler. Yeah, the art is okay in this. It has some panels are pretty darn good, some I think are a little bit mediocre. So if you like stories with Brainiac, you know he's the ultimate bad here. Also, I have to say, a little tidbit here, Catwoman seems to be attracted to Batman no matter what universe we're in. So we get some interesting takes on the Riddler, for example here. Catwoman, Mad Hatter, Niles Calder, Scarecrow, Silver Banshee, and Toyman too. So overall pretty good, but let's look at another person's perspective here with a 3-star review. So minor gripe here, and like it's really the most minor, but which crime syndicate in Earth 3 animator Earth is this now? I get that because we've had a lot of this kind of, so he's a little, that's a very minor gripe. But let's look at somebody who gave this a 5-star. Yes, yes, yes. So that's what they put there. So much great stuff here. It's tragic that this isn't a full 5-issue arc. We leave the door kind of open though. So maybe we'll come back to this, or maybe we'll get a World's Finest flashback mini to this. Either way, I need more crime syndicate content. I love them. So overall, the book is getting a lot of 3s, 4s. I'm not seeing anything too terrible except for maybe this 2-star one here. This issue was lazy and not fun at all. Unlike the previous one, Earth 3's heroes look almost identical to Earth 1's villains, and they even have the same names. Also, nothing interesting happens. Wow, that take seems a little bit out of left field. I don't agree that nothing interesting happens, but let us know your thoughts if you don't mind. We'd love to read them in the chats. The next book I want to talk about is Nightwing, issue 136, with 634 ratings, 4.1, very positive score on League of Comics Geeks, and I gave the book a 3.6. Yeah, so I didn't feel the same way. Though I do think the cover is quite appealing to lure people in. There's some alternate covers too for this book that are pretty good as well. The writer is Dan Waters and penciler Danny Cowan. And I do think the artwork is a step up here. We're getting a new storyline here. So if you were wanting to jump in the Nightwing and you haven't, because, every time you look at it, it's in the middle of a story, this one you can jump into. Nightwing's investigation into this haunted road. Yeah, it's going to lead into tragedy. So he gets on this haunted road, and it's some kind of witch story, which he sees as witch, which causes a massive wreck, or he thinks it's him going mental, and lots of people die. Well, Bloodhaven's under construction after all that stuff's happened. So this new road, what's going on here? Was it buried over a special burial ground or something we don't know about? I don't know. The art style for this issue, though, I think it works really well for the story. And so here we go. What it is, Dick is, struggling with it at the end. Did he cause this pileup? I'm not giving away too much of this story because they didn't give much away themselves. It's a little bit of a mystery here. Looking at other people's views, I'm seeing a lot of 4 stars and a lot of 5 stars. So let's start with one that I found that's the inverse here. We're looking at a 2-star. Oof. I've not been reading Nightwing for a while now. I thought it would come back since it was meant to be a fresh point, but mostly because of Cowan is on art. Yeah, and I think the art is a good draw here. Cowan is allowed to draw Dick walk to a garage for 3 pages, then sitting in a car for 20. I haven't counted the pages, so there's rough estimating there. For a book that costs $7. Well, it depends on where you live, for the conversion cost there. I would expect something to happen, but it was just paced out. So they were not a fan. Matter of fact, I found a 1-star too. Danny Cowan's art is a better artist, and Segal brings vibrant colors back to Nightwing. So the art they keep saying is great, but they're not caring for the story. Sadly, it isn't enough. While the supporting character receives graciously energetic close-up paneling when it emotionally demands it, Dick is drawn from 2 angles at most, which makes him look even stiffer. So Dick is looking stiff here. Sitting in the car already makes him. So Dick is looking stiff. Boy, that's going to go over well for the algorithm. Let's end it, though, with a little bit of a 5-star review, shall we? What an extremely good start to Waters' new arc on Nightwing. It reminds me of the post-crisis Nightwing with the narration and gritty city feel. The grit comes into play beautifully through Cowan's art and Segal's coloring. It really helped capture the tone, the grounded feel of the book, even if this particular issue may not be so grounded. Yeah, so there you go. You want to check out some Dick? Give it a shot. The next book I want to talk about is Wade Wilson Deadpool issue number 2. 410 ratings with a 4 score on League of Comics Geeks, and I gave it a 3.6, which my usual is a little lower, as I said earlier. The writer's Benjamin Percy, artist is Jeff Shaw. And we get no more clowning around here. You know what? That's a beautiful cover for this. No more clowning around and Deadpool staying over a bunch of either knocked out or dead clowns. Really good start. There's some open order covers that are pretty good too. So anyway, Deadpool's getting these secret messages of crimes before they're committed, and he's deciding to sort of be a good guy here and save these people. But then he realized, I can exploit this. I can make a profit off of this. But people like Hammerhead are not happy about this new change. So I think it's a good cover. It draws you in. Deadpool here, I think, is fitting. It's fitting for the character, a little bit of humor, in the danger involved. Hammerhead is definitely not happy, so they're setting that up there. I think it's nice to see characters like Hammerhead getting a little attention here. Looking at the reviews, though, I'm seeing a lot of 4 stars, but I did see a 1.5 star. Let's check that out. Why did this book come out of 2012? To kill my Wilson family adventures? This book continues to feel outdated in the humor, character, and plot, and it reads like it should have been a reset for Deadpool 2016 at the latest. I mean, it literally makes a waffle joke. Okay, last time I checked, people enjoy that version of Deadpool, and he doesn't seem that much different. Do you think he seems different? I'd like to know. Let's look at somebody that has maybe a different view here with a little bit of this 4.5 star. So this series is so good. I'm loving the art and Deadpool's dialogue. Oh, so completely the opposite of the other person. But most importantly, I'm loving the crumbs we get of Wade as himself and not hiding his pain behind a mask. I think maybe, I'm thinking about that other person. Maybe they were thinking because he's living back with the blind person again. It is sort of a throwback to that. So I don't know. Maybe this is in a different timeline. I don't know. Another one with 4.5 stars. Admittedly, True Believers. I'm interested. May not be the most revolutionary Deadpool story out there, but the art is good, and the story is interesting enough to make me keep going. Yeah, good on you, Ben. Let's hope there's no awkward technophobia in it later. He sometimes splices that in. So you see here, there is a mixed view. What is your view on this book? I would love to know. The next book's a series that has been all over the map of people somewhat liking it to darn right hating it. And that's The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 24 with 451 ratings, 3.7 score, and I gave it a 3.5. As I said, I usually grade a little lower. Spider-Man's a character that usually is going to get an audience no matter how bad the book is, but I think over the last couple years, we've really seen a dip. This book used to consistently on League of Comics Geeks be getting 700 to 1,000 reviews per issue. We're getting a lot in the 400s now. It just seems that it isn't sticking with people. The writer here is Charles Soule and Joe Kelly, and the artist is Jesus Diaz. And we have more of the Death Spiral. This is part 4 of that series, which I'm not diving into and getting everything. I'm just reading what's popping up in The Amazing Spider-Man. I will say it's a pretty good cover. Seeing Carnage on there and this Death Spiral with the Shocker gauntlets on there. I hope he didn't kill the Shocker, but it looks like they're sort of showing he did. Did he? Let me know. Did he kill the Shocker in that? Well, anyway, so we get this Death Spiral, another one in the series. It's pretty good art throughout the issue, and we get Carnage taking control over Eddie Brock. At least that's what it appears to be. We get Peter talking to MJ and voicing his issues with her being in the Venom costume, which once again, in my opinion, makes no sense. She was scared to death of the Venom costume, but I'm not reading Venom anymore, and I haven't been reading it with her in it. So if I'm missing something really good, let me know. Speaking of good, there's some good open order covers for this that are pretty darn interesting. Let's look at some other people's views real quick, though, here. Here's a 4-star. Let's try listening for a change, huh? See, I know you can hear it. That's what dying sounds like, and they put that in quotes. The newest part of Death Spiral is dropped, and this was pretty good. This is definitely more of a slower issue with a lot of focus on Eddie. Your mileage may vary, yeah, because Eddie's father gets killed. It puts a little focus on his father, their bad history, and Death Spiral kills Eddie's father. But here's a 1.5 star. Once more, Joe Kelly proves and shows his absolute hatred for Mary Jane every single time Brevoort's favorite lackey gets to touch her. And Venom was... Okay, this writing doesn't make any sense. In Venom was Kenzie. People, come on, edit your work. Mary Jane taking virtually no form of responsibility or accountability for any actions she makes. Okay. They don't like that turn there. Let's look at somebody that really likes this with a 4.5. Death Spiral has been quite fun. I'm really enjoying what they're doing here, and Charles Soule is great in writing it. Makes me want to check out his other works more. Okay. Fair enough. So this book really is all over the reviews, and I'm going to do one more with a 1 star. The artwork is really atrocious. The way the characters are drawn sucks. The backgrounds and the action look fake as can be. And the faces aren't great, especially MJ's looks way off. Some nice Spidey quips, but the whole plot and dialogue, the villains' motivations are so lame. This is really amateurish work right down to the end where Eddie can't come to the phone right now. Okay, people, this person clearly did not like the book. So this is all over the place. What are your thoughts on The Amazing Spider-Man number 24? Stick with me here. We still got a few more issues until we hit the comic book of the week, at least my pick. The next one I want to talk about is Captain America number 8. 608 ratings, 3.7 score, and I gave the book a close 3.6. I want to mention here, though, 608 ratings. Captain America's been bumping up in the ratings, so I think people are diving into this book and gravitating towards it and liking it. So we'll see what happens. Writer's Chip Zdarsky, artist is Jan Bzadala, which, sorry, butchered your name. Anyway, we're still dealing with a whole arc with the fallout of Doctor Doom. People going for, struggling to get power and, rights and all that, because it's been a big shift in Laviteria. So major shift here and figuring out what Cap's going to do in this situation. So anyway, this issue's cover I think is a lot better than the last issue was. There's also some open order covers that are, they're okay. Some interesting, some more than others. But I think this one does it. It gives a little intrigue as Cap is standing in a pool of skulls and things, and somebody's over his head. I think that's good. And it's a good sort of little leeway to what's going to actually happen in the issue. Because in this issue, well, you're going to see an angry Steve Rogers, a very angry Steve Rogers there. And I think throughout the book, too, it's some decent art. If you are a Cap fan, you might want to check this out. But looking at other people's reviews, still a bit of a mixed bag. Here's a 2-star. Well, that was definitely a comic. As the arc progresses and we get even closer to Armageddon, it becomes rather apparent that Chip Zdarsky doesn't really, this person doesn't really grasp the types of geopolitical situations he writes to write Cap in a fundamental way, and that he wouldn't be able to really write about it even if he could in a Cap comic. It's just impossible to talk about this comic without discussing the whole world outside. And I can see that, where somebody might have some issues there and parallels. When you have an administration is in just the last year alone repeatedly violating civil rights, formatting terror of minority populations, doing everything possible to stir up aggravation in the world, it looks the best stupid to write a comic that suggests that sort of liberal interventionist mindset is still on the table. Okay, see, this person's coming from a very liberal stance. Here's the thing. Okay, what did he actually violate here? Okay, from the world outside. What civil right did he violate? What terror on any minority did he do? Just for the record, there is none. And so that's my view. I'm going to soapbox at it because he soapboxed it a little bit there. There was no violation there of a civil right. People are here. If you're here illegally, they're getting rid of you. Come here legally, you won't have a problem. Right? But that may soapbox and piss some people off. You know what? Let's try to stay. Well, if you're going to put something in the comments about that, just be kind and be considerate. Let's have a good discussion here. Let's look at a 3-star. I found myself a bit bored reading this one. It's very mid-arc setting on the stage, which means mostly dialogue, which is true. There's a lot of dialogue in this one. A whole lot of dialogue. That in half itself isn't bad. The dialogue, however, is all about different factions and motivations for who wants to take over Latveria, with none of the group seeming to be fully pure of heart. Well, and that makes sense. I think no human is fully pure of heart. And that from a Christian standpoint is men and women, we're rooted in evil. If we will do evil things if we don't have something to oversee us and lead us in a moral direction. I would love to believe that people are good, but usually when you take somebody out and put them in a situation without something above them, what happens? So it's an interesting arc, an interesting take, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Once again, let's be civil in the chat, please, because I think that's, we can have differences of opinions and still perfectly enjoy each other's company. The next book I want to talk about is The Infernal Hulk #5, 390 ratings, 4.0 score, and I gave the book a 3.7, so once again, just a little below. The writers, Philip Kennedy Johnson, and pencilers, Kev Walker. First of all, the cover is pretty attractive cover. The coloring does well. I'm enjoying it. There is some also very good open order covers for this book as well. And so anyway, we have the Infernal Hulk versus the Almighty. Yeah, this is an interesting book here as we're starting to see the dangers of this new Infernal Hulk. The Avengers come in and they're thinking, okay, we got to take this on. But then what we get is what we believe to be the one above all is going to go in there to take on the Infernal Hulk. And well, let's just say it does not end well for us. If you were in that ship of heroes, you might be going, may it be a good idea to go off planet right now and tackle some other threat. Also, a dead son returns to his mother, and boy, does it not go well. And of course, it loops in our wonderful characters, Bruce Banner and Betty Ross, leading to maybe a movement going forward. And what they're going to do is they realize there is no hiding from this. Things are going to happen. Will we see more of Captain America, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, Scarlet Witch, and the Vision getting in this too? I don't know. Only time will tell. But looking at some other people's reviews, we got a lot of good scores and a lot of 3s. But here's a 2.5. Well, at least it didn't went as dumb as expected. Boy, at least it didn't went as well as it went as dumb as expected. Editing, people, watch. If you're going to call something dumb as expected, at least write a coherent sentence. The one above all. But just, I don't know, one of his servants? Yes, you'll see, it's sort of empowered by him. See, this person can't write coherently. Ugh, I'm not going to put their name up there. I don't want to belittle them. Here's another one, a 5-star. I really enjoyed the second half of this issue. The first half felt like it was pretty big bait and switch. That makes sense. I can understand that. I can tell that didn't want to truly upstage the power hierarchy. But at the point we find a power scaler, you're about to get upset. Give it some real stakes. Okay. So some people aren't liking what you get there a little. I don't want to give all of it away there. Here's a 1.5 star. I'm going to read a part of that. The intention is to deconstruct the Immortal Hulk, and that's being done well here. Of course, with all the arrogance of, hey, look how I'm the guy who writes anything and gets high enough praise and reviews to keep going. Ooh, this person's not a fan of the writer here. Yeah, okay, interesting. Let's go with one more with a 5-star review. Infernal Hulk destroying my home city. Since he represent. The art in his run is just so good. Boy, I tend to like the art in this too. Either Klein or Walker, and that showdown with the one above all was just so cool. I'll let you read that part for your own to get more additional insight there and the conflicting there. I'm also finding that Betty and Bruce side plot is my favorite part of this run. Yeah, we get more insight in there on how each one is dealing with it differently. As Bruce doesn't want to be the Hulk. He's been away from it now. He's been it for so long. He's happy to be away. Where Betty is the opposite. She's missing that power. And I think that's an interesting disconnect there. I want to know what you thought about this issue. Please share your thoughts. Next, let's dive into Mark Spector Moon Knight number 2. 541 ratings with a 4.3 score on League of Comics Geeks, and I gave the book a 4. As usual, a little lower. The creators are, for writing the story, we have Jed MacKay and Mirwell Loden and artist Dev Pramanik. I will say, I think the cover is pretty interesting right away. We got a beat the crap Moon Knight, which is not unusual. He's known to be beaten up and fighting, but there's also some cool open order covers for this as well. We have a trapped Moon Knight, or Mark Spector version anyway, and he's lashing out. We appear to get some help at first from, it's sort of crazy to expect that you would get Zodiac helping them, but we get to see why as the story gets further involved. So anyway, we got another Mark Spector Moon Knight book back here again. But here's a question I ask. Can this go more than 12 issues? It seems like even though Moon Knight's doing well, they keep pulling the reboot, and to get that new number 1, they try to keep momentum. If you really have faith in the character, stop it. Let him carry that. This is getting so hard for new readers. They get this and they go, oh, what if they miss an issue? I need to get issue number 2. And they go and they grab the one from the wrong version, the wrong series. Man, it used to be so much easier. I know they're afraid of big numbers, but they think this is going to help stimulate sales, but I'm not a fan. Though this issue has good art, good banter, right? I do enjoy it. I know not all my listeners enjoy this series. Looks like I'm seeing a lot of 5-star reviews though on League of Comics Geeks, but here's a 3-star, a little bit of that. I enjoyed this more than the last issue, for sure. And Moon Knight now knows who he is. And we can get a big fight sequence against his captors. Yeah, the main bad guy is revealed, and I'm guessing from the dialogue that he's a pretty big deal for Moon Knight fans. So this person seems like they're a little new to Moon Knight. So they might have actually given it a higher score if they knew him better. Speaking of higher score, look at this 5-star here. MacKay knows how to write the Moon Knight, and I love it. The last 2 issues have been good. It really plays into Moon Knight's psyche, telling stories about it, which is what I love from the character. Everything in it just puts a smile on my face. And I'm upset. I need to wait a whole month for the next issue. Wow, that person really loves this series. And I'm telling you, a lot of other people are. I'm seeing lots of 4 and 5 stars, very little of anything less than that. And I gave it a strong 4. That's a pretty good score, but it's still not my top book of the week. Next, let's dive into the Ultimates, a book that I'm struggling to keep into, but once in a while I get that one that just keeps me in it. And so we have the Ultimates number 22 with 764 ratings, 4.3 score, and I gave it a 4.2. Pretty high for me. Writers Denz Camp, artist is Juan Frigeri. Anyway, we had the Captain America Central issue here, versing the Red Skull, which is Bucky. Yeah, Bucky. So they're giving us a background story about Bucky and why he's changed to become the new Red Skull. Also, is it not surprising these writers always love to, how do I put this? John Walker. Marvel writers love to crap on John Walker because he's a conservative. So they always twist him. And of course, he's a Nazi in this one. He's one of the Red Skull guys. And, that's just what they got to do. So first, I like this cover of this issue. It's good. I think this is an interesting premise, having Bucky turn and be an enemy. The John Walker thing, I'm sorry. Marvel can't help but stand on themselves and step on themselves constantly with this stupidity on there. Why does John Walker always have to be a bad guy in their eyes? And Steve versus his best friend here, versus Bucky. Now, with that said, I am not going to give it away. Though I will say it's telegraphed a little bit. You could see it coming, but the last page, wow. That's something I have to say. Let's look at some reviews here. 5-star. What a tragedy. Very Shakespearean in its way and layout and its composure. I'm not going to read any more of that one. I agree there, very much so. I'm seeing tons of 5 stars and 4 stars for this. And I see a 3. So let's check out the 3-star. I definitely expected more with the way Dens was hyping up this issue on social media. Overall, this is just MCU Steve and Bucky in a way that I don't really care for that. Maybe other readers do. I wish we got more of it. Okay, I don't see how you think that, because I can see why it was hyped up. And I think even if you just want to read one issue, this one you could read on its own and still gain enough of story and interest and care into it. But, there is a person on here with a 2-star. Who's to say that Marvel's randomly murked this line? But one thing that certainly didn't help this universe longevity was handing the reins from Hickman, whose approach has always been radical but addictive, to Camp, whose approach is to tear down things for the sake of, tear things down. I agree with all of Camp's politics, but stating your ideology in word balloons isn't a story. Well, I don't necessarily agree with his politics, and I don't see his issue there. You've got to have... This issue requires to understand people's viewpoints right from the start. And it's an interesting thought of how somebody can change perspectives when they're left alone and when they feel abandoned. Which brings me to the point is, take time for your family and friends. Talk to them. Make sure everybody's okay. Sometimes you might assume somebody's okay and they need somebody to talk to. Reach out to the ones you love. That's all I have to say on that. Let's move to the next issue. This will be the last issue before my pick of the week. So this issue is Planet She-Hulk number 5 with 164 ratings, 3.9 score, and I gave it a 3.7. It's actually an uptick. It's doing better than what I was expecting here. Writer is Stephanie Phillips, artist is Aaron Cooter. The cover is pretty cool. Let you know it's going to be some action, but there is some open order covers that are also pretty good. She-Hulk is feeling the pressure, and the pressure is going to go and grow even more. She gets saved in this issue, and because she was in big trouble, and the story evolves here. There's good story progression here, good art. There's pretty good action too. If you've been reading this, keep up reading is what I would say. But also they're showing that now they're pushing her into a leadership role. They're like, hey, you're a leadership material. And she's, hey, I'm just a lawyer. This isn't me. Well, maybe she's showing differently here. But let's look at what some other people are thinking here. A 3-star says, this wasn't the sharpest issue by any means. That doesn't mean it's bad. The end of this arc did feel a bit lackluster. It's not over yet. This has still got more. So I don't get that there. Maybe they misread that. I can understand why you'd think then that, and maybe knock it down if you thought this was the last issue. Let's look at a 4-star. So some interesting twists and turns, including one specific character reveal trying to back the original Planet Hulk saga. Yes, and I'm not going to give that away. You're going to get a character reveal. It's like, oh, if you've been reading the Hulk for a long time, remember World War Hulk and Planet Scar and stuff like that, those, especially that time period, you're going to get a return of a character here. Not going to say which one. I don't want to give it away. Let's look at a 5-star. Stephanie Phillips, you will always be the best. Just an amazing way to end her arc. Amazing plot and drama and murder mystery to keep you so engaged. Why do people think this is over? Right? It's not over. From what I could tell, there is at least one more issue coming, right? Issue 6. I think maybe they thought it was, maybe they intended to be 5 and it went too long. I'm not sure. Why are people thinking this is over? I'd like to know your thoughts. All right, what we've all been waiting for, at least what I've been waiting for, the comic book of the week. Are we ready? G.I. Joe issue 20, 276 ratings, 4.3 score. I gave this book a 4.3 score as well. So that tells you something. First of all, if you're not reading this, you really should be. G.I. Joe's got Transformers in it. It's got Mask. There is a little quip I do have with it, and some people aren't going to like it, though. First of all, the cover is fantastic. You got Prime and Duke on the cover, though this is Optimus Prime version, where he's actually not Prime anymore. He's just Optimus. If you haven't been reading the series, the spark he let choose, and it went away. We'll put it that way. And so we get a meeting with Duke and Optimus here. And remember, Duke has had a big hatred for all these robots, but he's starting to get it, right? And this cover I think should sell this issue alone. There is some pretty decent open order covers, but this is the one to get in my opinion. There is a retailer exclusive one with him and Duke in an action pose, which is pretty cool too. So Duke and Optimus actually have a sit down and talk, and it's amazing how they're more similar than they're not alike. And they come up to the point of, we're going to help each other. We're going to go on and fight our own separate battles, but we're going to help each other. If you need help, we're here for you. So this is good story progression, a way to integrate the universes together, but not interfere too much, to have G.I. Joe in every issue, Transformers, and vice versa. This way they can loop together, and some Transformers are going to help the Joes, some are not. So this is good story progression. And this is a great place. This was a slower paced issue. Some might complain, but remember, we just had a lot of really fast paced issues. So sometimes a slower paced issue helps with the pacing a little bit. And I have no problem with that. The writer, Josh Williamson, you did a great job. The artist, Andrea Manila, did a great job on this. This is a book people should be reading. Looking at other people's scores, I see a 4.5 star. This has been my most hyped issue of the Energon universe for months now. I can't believe it finally happened. And honestly, I wish we had more. Yeah, I get it. Let me tell you though, personally going away from that, my one conundrum, and people are going to get mad, okay? But we get the Mask characters, right? And this is where I have a little bit of a conundrum. We get Matt Tracker. Why is he black? And please don't take this as a racial thing, but this is, Matt Tracker's a white guy. Is it they didn't think they could make the distinction in the artwork between him and Duke? It's just, they've been doing such a good job with this series to take those toys and those previous cartoons and bring them into the comic book series in a very close way. And this just seems like, why did you do that? There was no reason to do that and change the character's color other than just to be progressive. As I said, it's a minor gripe. Please don't take it as anything other than that, because he still seems to be a good character, but I just don't understand why you did it. Often people will, sit there and call somebody racist for a belief of that, but why did you do it? There's no racial reason to do that. But really, I don't have anything negative truly to say about the book. Here's a 5 star. I love this book. A meeting 20 issues in the making, and it did not disappoint. Well, people are just loving it, and I think that's a great point. I'm trying to find a low score here, and I'm telling you, it's hard to find something low. People are just liking this book. I mean, I'm getting simple with like, holy crap. I'm seated. People are loving this. G.I. Joe, especially Duke, and you see his hatred for these, and he sort of gets a changed perspective slightly on that. But he lets Optimus know that, hey, okay, I'm taking your word, but if you screw with us, you're going down. I mean, that's ballsy. This flesh bag Duke, which I mean that in a good way, he's flesh compared to a giant robot's like, you screw with us, we're going to take you down. That was epic, and that's why this is my comic book of the week. So you see, I'm not that hating on it, just that minor gripe. If you haven't been reading G.I. Joe, the Energon universe, you're missing out. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and please share your thoughts and be kind in the chat below. Let's be considerate to everybody. Have a great day. Until next time, keep it frugal.